Hey guys, welcome to another edition of At a Yard. Hi guys, it's 11:30 here at night, Phoenix, Arizona. I just got done with my session of the gym. It was cut actually short because I was on the World 52 app because I'm obsessed with it. Well, I found another all-wheel drive transmission and then another one. They're at the same yard. One is a B series and one is the infamous K series. That is the one that most of my clients have been asking about. I have to go get it. Well, here it is. I decided right now I'm driving to Colorado Springs to go pick up these transmissions. Colorado Springs is actually 11 hours away from where we're at right now. So that's gonna put us there at about maybe 10 o'clock our time. And that's gonna give us a good opportunity to get there and make sure that we're the first ones. Fortunately, it is the weekday. Generally weekdays, there is not a lot of people there. So we have a good opportunity of actually getting these parts. They were just posted, so I'm going to make like a crazy man and go over there. Fortunately for me, my truck is still loaded from last week when I went to California. We're in Colorado now. It's the next day. I ended up having to take a few naps, a couple of hours naps to get here, but we're about to pull up into the yard that we're gonna go find these transmissions. We drove a long ways. We drove about 12 hours or so, but we've been on the road for about 15.
In half a mile, keep right onto US 85.
As we're walking up, there's a lot more people here than I was actually anticipating. Parking lot's quite full. So now I'm getting nervous that I just drove a whole bunch and my parts aren't gonna be here. All right, looks like it's here. Gosh, it's right here on the end too. I was so nervous. I didn't want to bring much attention to this because I walked up without my tools, and here it is. Okay, so we just drove over almost 1,000 miles for this thing. So before I got too excited, I went and walked the rest of the yard. It was close to 4 o'clock, and this yard closes at 4:30. So there's no way I was going to be able to get the transmission out today. I went and made sure that the shifter's there, which is, there was supposed to be another all-wheel drive CRV here, first gen. And I went and looked, and it had been taken apart. And I know it was for a conversion because the shift linkage was missing. I'm sorry, the shift cables were missing, and the rear control arms are missing on this too. My friend Ryan actually mated the EF and the CRV rear control arm together to make it work. And I bet you that's the idea that they got going on, which is why they took the rear control arms. All right, it is the next morning. We made it back to the yard, and our transmission's still there. Fortunately, it was nerve-wracking. I got here at 9 o'clock and there was already about 20 people in line. Let me tell you how nerve-wracking it is. Normally what I do is I scout the yard before I actually bring in my tools, and this time I needed a cart, and so I had to come in first, grab the cart, and then go back out. And some of these guys already had carts ready to go, and so like that's something I need to be aware of, either be first in line, and even that doesn't even matter because I need to have carts and my tools ready to go in case there was going to be somebody that's going to be fighting over this transmission that we're trying to get. I've not removed one of these before. Fortunately, it looks like the radiator and the front core support was removed, and I'm going to have to take off the airbox, but it looks like we're going to be able to rock this out. I'm going to take the intermediate shaft because I'm not quite sure if they're the same as the standard manual transmissions. Obviously going to take the wheels off. We're not going to take the axles in this case. Then we're going to move into the shift linkage, which I haven't removed before yet either. So we'll kind of discover how that plastic comes off. All right, with the airbox out, it kind of exposes the shift cables and the transmission. Looks like they already took the drive line. So fortunately, we didn't need the flange on this. But we're going to take the slave cylinder, but we're going to remove the hydraulic line. Gosh, it looks like it's going to be fairly easy. I'm going to take this hydraulic line off too. Well, maybe we'll keep it on there and we'll just disconnect it from this hose here. But the shift cable is going to come off, so we'll disconnect them here, and then here. Then we'll pull them out, but I think it's going to be fairly fast. I think what I'm going to start on first is, since the transmission's pretty well exposed, I got to pull the axles out anyway, so I'm going to start with taking the wheels off first, then I'll take the axles out, and then I think I'm going to work on the bell housing underneath and any other dust shields that need to come off on the bottom. We'll take the rear motor mount out, then we'll take the front motor mount out, and then we'll work our way around the top. So one thing I've noticed is a lot of these yards will have like maybe one lug nut on these wheels, and in the Honda most of the Hondas are 19 millimeter, but when I get to them and there's only one lug nut, usually it's a 21 millimeter, and that's not just like a socket that we normally use in the Honda platform, so I always end up forgetting to bring that 21. This time I did, just in case. These axle nuts actually take a 36 millimeter socket, and I made sure to bring that because let's say the smaller stuff that we've been working on usually is a 32, and that's something else I forgot to bring, so make sure to bring your 36 millimeter as well. Because we care about the next guy, we're going to remove this axle without kind of disassembling the boot, and because it's going to be easy and we can. These are 19 millimeters that we need to remove off of the strut. The hub will move forward and then the axle nut will slide out. But I wanted you to see that this right here, this is a 22 millimeter nut. That's not the most common size in the Honda platform, but I do have one because it's the same size that you need to take off fuel line nut on older model Hondas, and that's a 22 millimeter. Back before I knew I needed an actual 22, I was using 7/8, so you guys know what I'm talking about. But I had the 22 on me, and so I can take that off. Here's something else that I got. So I just grabbed the floor mat out of one of the cars so I can lace my tools on it. You know, I don't really want a whole lot of dirt getting inside the motor and the brushes because I use that quite regularly and it's part of my tools. I want to make sure that it stays clean. All right, we're underneath the car and we're gonna remove the intermediate shaft. And there's this heat shield that kind of covers it, which I kind of started removing so I can get to the back bolts over there. And another thing we're gonna prep on the transmission before we start unbolting it is this scatter shield, this heat shield, or this dust shield, but it's all aluminum. So I'm gonna grab this too because this is kind of a nice structural item that you've seen on like the Type R's were like the first ones that come out with them, we noticed, and then like the Preludes. I thought this was like a really cool rigid part that we used to try to swap on our B series, and so I'm gonna grab this for the K series guys, and it's not gonna cost me any much more to take that. All right, look, I got the inspection plate out. This is a really nice rigid part, really super cool. And I also got the intermediate shaft out. So I'm grabbing the intermediate shaft because I'm not sure if we're gonna need it or not. I'm not sure if they're the same as the regular manual intermediate shafts. Kind of like in a B series where you'll need a manual intermediate shaft, you can't use an auto. They're different. This could be the same case. If we were to leave this behind and then find out we need it later, it's gonna be crazy to try to find another manual all-wheel drive intermediate shaft. So because we're here, we're gonna grab it and it's gonna be cheap anyway. Bolts from underneath are removed. Now the next challenge is going to be this rear engine mount, and it looks fairly simple to get to. I think I'm going to take these 14s that you see here and here out, and then maybe that back bolt that holds the motor mount, and there's another one underneath. That means that whole bracket will slide up out of the way and the engine will be able to rock once this front mounts out. Then it's going to just be hanging there by this one, and that will be the order of business. So I stand corrected. Those are actually 17s down there, and I can get to the one, but I can't get to the other because then the tool ends up backing up into this rear mount. So now what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove the long bolt that goes through the mount itself, and then unbolt the mount from the cross member there, and then lift the mount out of the bracket, and then remove the bracket because that will probably give us a lot more room to work with it off. So that back mount was actually kind of challenging getting from up top, so I decided to come get it from the bottom. And with the driveline out of the way and the exhaust, I have a lot of room to get a massive amount of stroke out of there. Should be pretty easy. Get this mount out. Looks like there's going to be these 14s right here. Yeah, they're 14, 1, 2, 3. And the idea is that I'm going to slide this up out of the way and then try to get this bracket off. But I'm not sure. This might be an issue here because we're going to kind of bind. So maybe that might be the course of action we're going to take. And looking at it right now, I don't think it's going to be. This right here has been very, very difficult. I'm doing a lot of huffing and puffing. Even if I had like a cordless battery operated impact, it still wouldn't be enough torque to take this off. I think what's going on here is this steel bolt is seized into this aluminum bracket on the side, and it's just stripping all the way out, and it's very, very hard. But while we're under here, there is a 17 right there we're going to go ahead and grab also, and I think that will complete everything else under here before I move up top. So I'm a huge goof. Again, this is the first time I've removed one of these transmissions out of the vehicle, and I wasn't even thinking, man. I'm getting ready to pull this transmission traditionally, like we've been pulling all the B-Series all-wheel drives, dragging it out, like taking off the engine and dropping out from the bottom. I'm actually not going to be able to do that. There's a subframe on this car. Duh, I haven't worked on these cars enough to remember that. But this is going to be actually pretty easy to do. So I have the motor mounts already removed because I was going to drop the transmission down. Now that it's just hanging here, there is just 4 bolts that hold this in. It's gonna be here, and then one over here. There's just 4 bolts that hold it in. One over here, and then one over here, and then there's 2 in the back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 back bolts off first so that it drops, and then take the 2 front off. I think maybe I'll put a wheel under there to kind of catch the cross member as it drops down. The steering rack's actually on the back of the firewall like they are on the RSXs, so that's one less step that we're going to have to take, so this should be pretty easy. Alright, that was pretty easy. Now there's plenty of room for the transmission to drop down right there on the ground, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on this rubber so I can slide it out pretty easy, keeping the mud out of the transmission. I'm going to move this up out of the way. I might have a transmission here pretty soon. Next is going to be removing all the wiring harnesses that are still here. We're going to take this one off and to unplug these so we're not snagging on anything. The shift link is going to come up and just kind of hang out until we get to it. We have this clutch line here. We have this ground strap here. Working on the final bolt right now, and it's going to be the 17. The transmission's already starting to split apart, which if you looked close you could see there. It's going to start separating, and as it does that, it's going to kind of hang up on the clutch, but we still have this motor mount attached here. With that mount, it's going to keep the transmission up, and it's going to keep it from slamming down on the ground, which is what we want because we're trying to use this transmission. So what I think I'm going to do is put a tire underneath the transmission to kind of catch it as it does fall down when I start taking out that motor mount bolt. There you saw that was pretty violent, but our tire actually did come into use. The transmission did fall on the tire. We do want this transmission, that's why we did that. All right, so it fell right there on top of the tire. You can see it separated here, so we're going to go ahead and separate this and yank this transmission out. I'm going to do something a little bit different on this one. On the B-Series, I don't normally grab the clutches, but on this one, I am. Most of the time when I get K-Series transmissions, like the TSXs for instance, they're usually automatic. It is rare that I find one that is manual, and so that means the flywheel is something that we rarely get. The flywheel bolt's also very important, so I'm going to grab the clutch and the flywheel off of this as well. The clutch and flywheel off, our Milwaukee battery powered tools make light and easy work of it. Make sure to grab your flywheel bolts as well. Those are specific to the K-Series. And we're actually in luck. This clutch disc is in pretty decent shape, and it is an Exedi. Exedi actually is the OEM manufacturer for Honda clutches. I don't know that this one's been replaced before. The pressure plate looked like brand new, and the disc looks in very good condition too. Hair's looking good. You know, check this out with my hair, man. So I went to the barber and I asked them to cut an inch, and they left an inch. This was actually a couple of weeks ago that I got it cut, but it's starting to get to the point where I can actually manage it a little bit. So I think it's looking pretty fresh, except for that oil streak I just put in there. Okay, so now we're on to the shift linkage. I haven't removed the shift linkage on these vehicles yet before either. We're also going to take the shifter. The shifter sits underneath the center console, so we're going to be learning this job together. It looks like this shift knob is going to come off fairly easily. I'm not sure about the boot or the center console, so let's try not to break anything. Check this out. Okay, so we had 2 screws on the side. We had a screw on the side here, and then we had a clip that was there. And I was trying to figure out how the top upper half goes. And look, there's a screw hidden behind this little plastic deal here. Look, you could kind of see where you're gonna apply like a tool to kind of lift it up, and that's exactly what you do. So fortunately, I carry a set of picks with me, and I can get right in there and pop it off. And we'll just get those Phillips out. Okay, now those 2 are out. There's actually another one right in there. You can see it perfectly with the ashtray out. There's that one, and then there's 2 on the side, which are pretty typical of the Hondas. I got that one out. There's gonna be one on the opposite side. All right, just when you think you got it done, there's more. Okay, so this is the climate control stuff. I had to take that off, but to get to the screws that hold it on, which are these 2 here and here, I had to take out this cubby, which sat in there, and there is a screw that sits down in there that comes out pretty easily. Comes out, 2 screws, and that exposes these 2 in here. We'll see if this center console comes out now. All right, finally our console's off, our shifter is exposed, and it looks like it comes off pretty standard, just like the rest of them. We got 4 12 millimeters, and we got that that boot down in the center, the exhaust tunnel. Pretty simple. I think we're gonna have this out pretty fast. All right, there it is. We're all finished. We got all the parts. That shifter was fairly easy. We're just gonna go over a quick parts list of the stuff that you're gonna need for your all-wheel drive conversion as far as the K-Series is concerned. Okay, we have the transmissions, pretty obvious. That's what we want. It's our all-wheel drive K-Series transmission. There's some brackets here that we're not gonna take. We're gonna take this slave cylinder, but we're not gonna take this bracket. We're not gonna take this rear bracket. They might wanna charge us for it. We are gonna take the speed sensor. We got the shifter and the cables, of course. We also kept the bushings that go on the end of these. Those are like a flat washer with a plastic washer as well. Those are the bushings you need. We are grabbing some other stuff that you might not need, which is this inspection plate. I really like this, so I'm taking it. And we're taking the intermediate shaft because I'm not sure yet. We're taking the clutch and flywheel just because those are hard to find. A very stressful couple of days. We drove out here specifically for this transmission. It was here. I did also come because there was supposed to be a CRV that was here, that was all-wheel drive, another CRV that was all-wheel drive, but it was already taken. But on the way here, I passed by another yard that wasn't on the Row 52 app. So I took down their information and I looked them up online. Turns out they have 5 CRVs there. Their website doesn't list whether it's their auto or 5-speed, so I'm gonna call down there and see if any of them are, because that will make this trip worthwhile. You know, again, this is a business, so one transmission a day isn't going to cut it. You know, I want to come back with multiple transmissions, you know, because even though we're selling these at market value, there's not a whole lot of margin in there in terms of fuel costs, our time to come out here to search. There's a lot of costs that kind of drain you. Of course, it took another day. Sometimes you have to rent hotel rooms, which then adds to the of costs, which then of course drops down our profit margin, and that's just not a business. So hey guys, it's been several months since I've made that video, and I'm just now getting to edit it. It's Thanksgiving weekend, we just had our turkeys, and I finally had time to edit my How to Yard K-Series video. It ended up a little bit inconclusive, as I noticed that I ran out of SD card towards the end, and we found a lot of different resources. So I was getting into our cost factors. As we've been doing this, we're kind of learning that this might be a business venture that we got going on, which we believe we're going to continue. We've learned a lot in a series on how to attain these transmissions. So moving forward, we're going to start adding a lot more information in terms of our total costs and how we can actually make this function as a business and be more professional in our yarding techniques. So anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure to check out our website at hushperformance.com. Make sure to check out our sister channel at VTech Academy. And again, like always, happy tuning.